Hello, I'm Justice Penka, and we're making a video on global leadership and horsemanship. So what is global leadership, and how can we express this through horsemanship? Whenever you enter the world of horses, you're entering a new culture. There's the human side, or the human culture associated with horses, what people think they know and what people do know, and then also the horse world themselves. The band of horses has unique characteristics and unique culture that if you don't understand their culture and how they think and how they react, you cannot be successful at leading them. You have to know how to react and anticipate their reactions in order to move forward in a good relationship. Cultural self-awareness. When entering the world of horses, you're entering into that new culture, and you have to be aware of that culture. When we first started owning horses, we were kind of oblivious as to this. And one day a friend of mine called me and needed some help loading a horse. The horse was chosen to be worked with Clinton Anderson, who's a world-renowned horse trainer. And we went to the event, and it truly opened my eyes to understanding the cultural differences and the differences in horses and the way they perceive things and the way that we perceive things. And that there is a better way to be when dealing and acting in other cultures. Whenever you go to catch a horse, you cannot act in your own mannerisms and way of being and your culture that you know. You know, when humans greet each other and walk up to each other, they're very assertive and they shake each other's hand and they look each other in the eye. And to a horse, that's aggression. And they're afraid that you're going to eat them or hurt them. And their way of survival is to run away. So you have to learn to change your mannerisms, your body language, your way of what you think should be the way to do it, because it's not. You look to the ground, you hold your hands down, put them in your pockets, slump your shoulders a little bit, and you learn how to challenge them aggressively when they're looking away from you. And then you act submissively when they look toward you, when they turn toward you. And eventually, without ever touching the horse, you can get them just to follow you. It's all about establishing trusting relationships between the horse and yourself. One trainer that I really like, his name is Mark Rashid, and in his books, A Good Horse is Never a Bad Color, and Life Lessons Learned from a Ranch Horse, he describes about building relationships with the horse and acting consistent. A lot of people think that horses follow the bully, the one that pushes them around, and in actuality, with behavior of horses, they don't. They actually follow the horse that keeps them out of trouble, that keeps them safe, not getting beat up and scratched. So as a human leader in the horse culture, you have to lead them in a way that is safe and calm, and they learn to trust you. When you establish these relationships with the horse, and you establish a trusting relationship, you can move forward in the training process. A lot of trainers, and it's a very effective training technique, it's called desensitization. And you're acclimating the horse to saddles and blankets and noises and ropes and plastic bags, and you're desensitizing them to these weird things that we do. And in some ways, you're training them to trust you, that whatever you do around them, that it's okay and they're not going to get hurt. They're not going to get eaten or killed. And it's building those trusting relationships that is key to having a good experience, having a good ride, having a good trail ride. It's good for you and the horse.
She approaches you, basically she bent in
Right. Frame shifting is about changing your leadership style in order to achieve the goals in a different culture. Training horses, working with horses, there's a lot of frame shifting going on. You do not necessarily go about what your natural leadership style is, because a lot of times that produces wrecks, and either you or the horse can get hurt. One of the story that comes to mind, an instant that I had to frame shift in my leadership style. I was working with a horse named Sugar. My younger son, was working with her in the arena, and she was being stubborn. She was not listening to him. She would turn regardless of his direction and go to leave the arena. So I was going to get on her and I was going to straighten her out to keep her mindful of the rider. So we were going around. I was having her do odd things just because I told her to. And I came into a couple of pipes where we could pass between them. And as we moved up, she stepped into them and stopped. I asked her, she moved, she stopped. And she felt different this second time that she stopped. She really was saying, no, I don't want to go through there. And I could sense, I could feel a difference in what she was doing. I had no idea why. And I thought about it and I asked her, move forward. She said no. So I paused and I reflected, and in that moment I knew that this was a different no than the previous no's. So I said, okay. So I shifted my focus from being the assertive leader, and we backed up. And when we backed up, when her back foot moved, I heard something, and I looked underneath the horse, and a bent fence post fell from her, poking her in her belly, and fell on the ground. So when she'd stepped on it, it had flipped this post up, and it was sticking her in her gut. And she knew that she did not want to move forward. And I think that if I would have insisted, it could have been very bad for both of us. So I'm glad that I frame shifted my leadership style to one of a listening style instead of one of an assertive style. Also with frame shifting and training horses, you have to know the horse, and you get to know the horse through the relationship process. And then you learn to adjust your strategies to effectively train that particular horse. The horse that I was riding today, the black horse, her name is Jack. And to ride her effectively, you have to know, you have to ride her. She has to know that you can ride her, because she will try to buck you off. And once you establish that, and you know that it's not a defiant or a defiance in a way, she is slightly scared. You have to reassure her. And when you do, the results are amazing. She moves gracefully. She's a powerful horse. She knows a lot. But if you don't know how to ride her and anticipate the times that she does get scared and reacts in a bucking manner, you'll hit the ground. And it won't be a good day. In the horse world, horses conserve energy. They need it for when they're being chased. Something scary happens. They don't just run, well, unless it's cold and they want to warm themselves up. But a lot of times they're pretty calm. And if you're riding a horse and you're not sharing in the ownership, you're not focused in on a task of what needs to be done, or a goal, a location, a spot, they pick up on your aimless leadership. They realize you really don't know where you're going. You're especially in an arena. They think you're just kind of wandering around for no apparent reason. And they don't show energy, and they don't buy into what you're doing. So you have to look at your goals. You have to know your vision. And you have to, when you lean slightly forward in the seat, it gives purpose to your action. You look at your spots, where you're wanting to go. You focus in on it, and they know it. And they buy into that, and they'll move in that direction that you're going. Another thing about expanding ownership, what's different with a horse than, let's say, a machine like a motorcycle. A horse will not run you off of a cliff. A motorcycle could care less. It's an inanimate object. But the horse has sense. It wants to be safe. And in that ownership, you have to learn to trust the horse. And when you trust the horse and they trust you on the relationship side, you know how to frame shift. And it does expand ownership. And when that happens, when you do both have a common goal, the energy that they contribute is unstoppable. I thought of this in two different ways. One, I wanted my oldest son Malcolm to come along for the ride today because I am trying to develop him as a future leader. He's learning leadership skills while riding his horse, learns how to be assertive, learns how to be respectful, learns to listen, as well as he learns to lead. And I think that those are key qualities in global leadership and being a good person, good leader in this world. Another aspect of developing future leaders is that of the horses. We do have a bully horse who thinks she's the boss, and eventually we plan on maybe removing her from the organization, because when you go to catch them, you have to catch her first. If you don't, she'll start running, she'll get the other horses to run, and then it's just, an hour later before you end up catching them in the big field that we have. So in developing the leaders, you need to choose your leaders wisely, and you need to learn how to cultivate them into better leaders, and if not, then maybe you need to find leaders that can positively change the organization. Also, some horse owners are extremely afraid of being assertive with their horse. They're either afraid of it, they don't know how to be assertive, they can't get their horse to load up into a trailer, they can't get their horse to move forward. They just don't know how to lead their horses effectively. They're not adding value. They've become so passive that progress is just non-existent. Core values and flexibility. There are two main core values that I do not allow a horse to get by with on their behavior. I do not allow kicking, and I do not allow biting. You can really get hurt in these situations. Whenever a horse kicks or bites, you have 3 seconds to win it, and you best win it, because they'll get away with it, and they'll think that they can bully you around. They think that they can be your leader, and you do not want that, because you're going to get hurt. Also, everything else after that, we can work with. We can work with different behaviors, try to channel them in different areas. But those two core values of mine, I do not allow. No kicking, no biting. Influence across boundaries. This was a difficult one for me. I found it challenging to try to find the analogy between the horse world and training, or the human world, or human culture. I think that by establishing those trusting relationships and establishing expectations and being consistent in your behavior, the horse expects that of another human that comes their way. And that's going to be their first instinct to act accordingly. Now, of course, if the person is acting very aggressive, really doesn't know how to use their hands, where to look in the eye or not in the eye, at their shoulder, then the horse may read the person better than what they normally read everybody else. By establishing those good relationships, you are crossing the boundaries of expectations, and the horses will respond accordingly. Third way solutions. Third way solutions are more than one way to skin a squirrel. There are many different ways to do things, and to think that your way is the only way and the right way is just ludicrous. As I was preparing the script or my thoughts on the video here, I thought of farriers and how to shoe a horse. And we've got some footage of a horse hoof earlier, and my statement is that there's as many ways to shoe a horse as there are farriers, because everybody's got their little idiosyncrasies that they do it the way grandpa taught them or the way so-and-so taught them, and this is the right way to do it. And it's not true. A lot of times I think it's important that we as leaders realize that we train or shoe a horse in ways that the horse understands and that is best for their character. And that's going to be the most effective way. And so therefore we have to be pliable in our leadership style. We have to read the situation as it develops and adjust accordingly. There are third way solutions. We should not get stuck on the only way to do something, because it's not. I want to thank you for watching the video. I hope it's been insightful on the similarities between horsemanship and global leadership. I hope you see the analogies that we were trying to make today. I think that it is a synthesis of global leadership in a unique way.